Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I want to say a massive thank you to E.T.T and I for inviting me here today to speak at this event. What a great venue it is. I was actually saying to the guys there, it's a nice change to be able to leave here. We've still got money in my pocket. Most of the time you come here, you get fleeced, but we'll get straight into it, not waste any time. Today's topic is time, profit, and control. It's going to be quite informal. The whole theme behind everything you're going to hear here is simple. It's smarter business, stronger results. And I will get into what time, profit, control means, who I am, why I'm here, what I do. But before that, I want to get one thing clear. I'm here to talk about building a smarter business. I'm not one of these people who stands up and says, work less, or take it easy, work smart, not hard. I don't believe in any of that stuff, to be honest. I believe in working smart and working hard. And that's how you get ahead in this industry and in this game. So, again, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to say anything you haven't heard before. It's mainly just the approach. So I'm not here with theory as well. I'm never going to tell anybody. I deal with all different types of trades and disciplines. I won't ever tell you how to do your job, your specific trade or whatever else. I'm also not here with motivational quotes, vision boards, or manifestation and hoping everything's going to happen, everything's going to be rosy, because I'm aware that this is real life. I'm here with real, practical, implementable steps that are built for the day-to-day reality of electrical and trade and in general trade and construction business owners. Because the truth is this, there are too many people out here who are running their business completely blind. No structure, no control, no clarity. And when you run blind, you waste time, you lose profit, and you feel like everything depends on you, which I'm sure resonates with all these in here. So what I'm going to talk about today is how you actually fix that and how you build a smarter business. So how you create more time, more profit, and more control so your company can grow without you burning out. So we've only got about 30 minutes today, so I do this obviously day and daily. When I work with clients, it's a minimum 6 months. None of my clients have ever left after 6 months, you stay on for a year or so on. So there's a lot of work behind it, there's a lot involved in it. And I'm not going to sit here today and try and cram everything into 30 minutes. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an insight. My beliefs, my background, what I've learned over the time in the industry, the systems that we use and why they matter. So by the end of this, you'll understand the model, the business model, why I'm doing what I'm doing, how I do it, and you'll know exactly why smarter business always leads to stronger results. So before I move on, I want to say this. Anytime I deliver any sort of talk, run a training with any of my clients, and anytime I stand in front of the room like this, my goal is pretty simple. I want every single person to leave with something they can actually go away and implement straight away, something actually tangible, something they can, or even an idea, but something you can put into your business this week, not just someday or whatever else, or filling out a workbook and then putting it in your van and never seeing it again. So I want to try and give people value, and I'm not just here to just talk at you. I want you to walk out of here, even if it's just an idea, like I said, of something that can make a real difference in the business or your approach to business or thinking differently about the business. So we'll get stuck straight in. So most of you in the room, I had a couple of clients in there, but most of the guys, I don't know anybody in here. So for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Marc Watters, and I've been in this industry for, scarily enough, 20 years. Started on building sites at 14, just working summers, labouring, doing whatever needed done. But while I was still in school, I always wanted to leave and get a trade. I was always, not scared to say it in a room full of sparks, but I chose mechanical. I was a plumber. So the dark side. But I went into pipe fitting, the commercial end, the industrial side of things, not the domestic stuff. Stayed away that for quite a while. But started as an apprentice, served my time like all of us do. And the second that I was qualified, I made the mistake that, again, most people do, thought I'm going to go out now and run my own business, which isn't the reality of how things work. So I always had that itch. So I grew up around business. My family were in business, and I was obsessed with business, making money and doing things like that from a very young age. And I always wanted to work for myself. I think that was why I wanted to do a trade. I like just working with my hands. I like making things happen. And I seen that as the quickest pathway of doing so. So I went out on my own and quickly realised that I had absolutely no idea how to run a business. And it was around that time of around 2008, after the crash. So work was tight anyways. I was barely qualified, fourth year apprentice. I just come there to your time thinking that's it, I'm going to take over the world here. But I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I did what I thought the smart thing to do would be. I went to learn from somebody who I believed was successful. Went to work for a local guy who had a lot of vans on the road, a lot of guys there, plenty of work. But once I sort of looked behind the curtain to see and actually see inside his business, I realised he had no business sense at all either. His life was chaos. He had no money or lack of profit anyway, no structure. Everything looked good from the outside, but the reality was that it was pretty much a bit of a mess. So I tried a few other things. along the way. Went to work in the Millfield Tech and things like that, doing apprenticeship assessing, a couple other different things. But eventually, I decided I wanted to go and see how the bigger companies did it, how the big boys did it in the commercial space, in the large commercial companies, what I deemed to be the serious operators. So I joined a big M&E company here in Northern Ireland. At the time, they were around 60 million turnover. Started as a junior engineer with the mindset of going in, learning how they ran projects, how they ran the business, how the systems worked, and how they got to where they were. That was my that was the plan and the idea behind going and doing that and starting again at the bottom, working my way up. So worked my way up very, very fast. Not all in the same company, but across a few major firms in the country anyway. I went from junior engineer, senior engineer, project manager, contracts manager, operations level, and then eventually director level. And during that time in the industry, I worked in every facet that I would say in those businesses. So from estimating, procurement, project delivery, commercial, cost control, operations, all whatever it was, even the team building stuff, the hire and fire and all that carry on. So the goal was I wanted to understand every single part of how a trade or construction company actually works from the inside out. And that experience shaped everything that I do now. And that was just, like most people in this room, I learned the hard way. So it obviously wasn't easy. This game is not easy. Construction, the industry is not an easy industry to work in. Long days, no time, firefighting, chasing payments, stress through the roof, never feeling caught up, never getting on top of things. And a funny story is when I was managing projects, so during my time as like project contracts manager, delivered over £80 million worth of M&E projects, but I used to sleep with a notepad beside my bed. Didn't sleep very much, to be honest, but obviously away working across the water and things like that. I just got up in the middle of the night or every hour so often and write down notes because I was waking up in a sort of panic or thinking of all the things I had to do. So I'm sure some of that resonates with some of you in the room here. Just couldn't switch off is the moral of the story, and it was absolute hell. When you're managing big projects, big business, big pressures, big teams, big expectations, it never sort of stops. It just never switches off. It's just one problem after another after another. And eventually I realized that the problem wasn't actually the work. So it wasn't the physical discipline, the mechanical or electrical or whatever it was we were doing. The problem was the way the business was being run, how projects were being managed. There was no clear structure, no control, no systems in place, no real plan. I know most of you in the room will understand when you say every job, every big project anyway you go to do seems to be like it's the first project everyone's ever done. Everyone's scratching their head and thinking of like asking questions that you've been through on every single project. It's all the same shit every time, you know. So the big companies, what I realized was as well, the big companies had the same issues the small companies had, just on a bigger scale. So it was all relevant, all the same challenges from a £100,000 company to a £60 million turnover company. And what I enjoyed doing was trying to fix those things. The operations role was my favorite role, and I enjoyed taking something that, say, took 10 steps, just for an example, and turned it into 3 steps. Streamlining things, taking something that took, 3 people. I'm not talking about physical work, I'm talking about behind the scenes stuff or the office stuff. What took 3 people to try and get it down to 1 person? I'm sure we've all sat in meetings, if anyone's in the commercial side of things, sitting in meetings with 10 people and maybe only 2 people speak the whole time you're sitting there for 2 hours wondering why you're even sitting there in the first place. All that kind of stuff. All the real bulky, old way you're sitting there having meetings about meetings. So I wanted to make things simple and sort of cut through all the noise, because construction, I believe, is full of people who are either trying to reinvent the wheel every day, they're making things more complicated than they need to be, or it's either clunky and old school and just things need to change. So this is where I accidentally fell into what I do now. As I worked my way up, subcontractors would come to me with problems. Teams would come to me with problems. Projects would fall behind. People were struggling across the board. And I was paying subcontractors big money, which if any of you are in that position, you know what it's like. And they were still no profit, still underperforming for me as their client. And companies I managed were doing big turnover, but seriously struggling. So I started helping people. And I was actually speaking to somebody else inside there today who was a commercial manager. Don't know if he's in here now, but we had this exact same scenario of he was actually providing and training these guys how to do valuations and variations and just to help them to help him, because it was a nightmare having to deal with these guys. So it's just surprising what people don't have, the basics in front of them. And here's what I noticed as well. I was trying to help people understand what's actually going on inside their business, and not just going from job to job or project to project or whatever else. So what I noticed was there were plenty of general business consultants, plenty of generic business coaches, but nothing focused purely on construction. Nothing that shows you how to run a real systemized, efficient construction or trade business. So nothing that helps you build something that works without burning out on the stress of the industry. So most people will stand here and talk about scale, turnover, but it's more, my approach is more about the business owner and the business itself and how things are done. So quick question for anybody in the room, show of hands, who here owns their own business? For a minute, yes, okay. So if somebody asked you who you are and what you do, would you call yourself an electrician? Would you call yourself a spark, or what would you call yourself? Spark, but you own your own business. So it's the same theme I get in almost every room. Everybody says, no, I'm a tradesman. Like that's who I am, that's my identity. And every room I speak to is almost the same answer. Most people will stay tradesman, that's who they are. Again, that's their identity. And that right there is what I sort of identified, speaking to so many people, was the sticking point for so many people in the industry, because the reality is, if you see yourself as a tradesman, you will run your business like a tradesman. You'll stay on the tools, you'll stay buried in the jobs, stuck on the day-to-day, chaos. You'll deal with every problem, you'll firefight, you'll chase, you'll react, and you'll stay overwhelmed. And for guys that didn't come through the tools, like I did, the same pattern happens. You treat your business like a project. So it's project to project. You think from job to job instead of thinking at a higher level and looking at things from a different angle. So you get stuck on the weeds is the point, and you can't see the bigger picture. So now I'm not saying for anybody who is on the tools and has their own business that the fix is just come off the tools and that's it. That's the problem solved. And if it's just you and an apprentice and you have a small business, that small operation working on the tools can work, that's fine. But if you want to grow, or if you do want to scale, if you want to move things on, if you want a real business that operates smoothly, you cannot stay buried in the work forever, because you need to take almost one step back to take 2 steps forward, in my opinion. So not to work less, although that does organically happen with my clients. Most of their goals is to come away. Most of them are working 6-7 days a week, evenings and everything else. It's to take a step back from that and maybe do 3 days, and 2 days on the business and whatever else. It's about, some of the guys love to stay busy. That's the thing. I'm like that as well. I couldn't sit in the house and do nothing. I couldn't sit and twiddle my thumbs. So it's about staying busy, but it's not to give up control. That's one thing I always like to maintain. I want to stay in control. And there's a way of doing that. But actually, what we're going to talk about here is how we're going to gain control and work on the things that fulfills them and make real progress as a business owner. So a business owner's job is simple. And most people, this is what people neglect when they're stuck on the weeds. Your job as a business owner, as a founder, or as a CEO, or whatever it may be, is to make decisions, bring in the work, plan, look at the numbers, review the information, set direction, lead a team, do all these things. But you can't do any of that properly. You can't do any of that properly if you're knee deep in cable trays or whatever you're doing, pulling cables, fault finding, chasing suppliers, dealing with variations, running from job to job, trying to price work in the evening. And even that comes with all its own problems, trying to rush things out the door. And that's usually the core of the problem, is even when you're looking at those jobs and missing scope, not being able to review the specs and whatever else and properly. So your business needs for you to operate from a higher level, like a bird's eye view, where you can actually see what's happening, where we can think clearly, and you can plan instead of just always reacting and firefighting. So everything that I've designed inside the blueprint, everything we'll talk about today, is built to help people make that transition from tradesman to business owner, from running around doing everything to run the proper systemized business, and to go from chaos to control. And that starts with this. Your identity has to shift first. That's why I asked the question at the start of this. If you see yourself as a business owner, you will behave like one. And when you behave like one, everything in your company starts to change. Everything starts with your approach, or everything I said I wasn't going to talk about, which is the mindset, it means everything. So we'll look at the identity shift. And thanks for ChatGPT for making these be nice images. So we have talked about identity and the identity of being a tradesman versus being a business owner. And that identity is built on a belief. What you think is possible, what you've seen before, what your experience is showing you. So yeah, maybe a lot of guys are in trades because their parents or grandparents or whatever was trades, and that's just the family thing they've continued to do. So all you know is what's been done before you. And that is the biggest shift that needs to happen, is the identity shift. I said earlier I was not here to talk about vision boards or any of that stuff, but mindset, approach, thinking, whatever you want to call it, it all matters, because your thoughts and your approach need to change before anything else changes. So it's like letting go of your beliefs, what you currently hold, because they're not serving you anymore. So you cannot go from being stuck on the weeds to running the business overnight, like the flick of a switch. So I do, believe it or not, have that conversation with some people and say you need to get off the tools, and the next day they go, right, that's me, I'm off the tools. And that's not how it works. It's not Again, we're talking about real life situations here, and I've been in the industry long enough to know that. Your identity has to shift first. So it's a thought process. Your approach then changes. Your beliefs and your habits have to be sort of dusted off and rebuilt. So you almost need to let go. I know it sounds a bit airy-fairy or a bit pie in the sky stuff, but you almost need to let go of who you are and what you currently are doing before you step into something new, which is the most hardest part of everything I do with any of my clients. Nothing I teach, like I said at the beginning of this, is complicated. None of the systems are revolutionary. They're actually probably more basic than things you've been shown before. None of the processes are magical or brand new. Everything I teach is simple, like I said. It's simplicity, because construction or this industry does not need more complexity. You know, it needs clarity and it needs consistency. And I'm not talking about your discipline and what you guys do every day with the systems you're dealing with all the different things that are going on there. That's enough to deal with. But in terms of business, it doesn't need to be fancy apps, it doesn't need to be fancy software. It just needs to be the basics, but it needs to be getting done. It needs to actually be being put to use. So the difficult bit is that transition, the switch from tradesman thinking to owner thinking, and that is where most people actually struggle. That's, again, the biggest hurdle that I face with any of my clients who come to me the first time. And being busy is one of the biggest traps. That's the biggest excuse that I hear all the time. And while I know we are all very busy, people were being busy like a badge of honor. You're flat out. It's all you hear. You're busy, flat out. I don't have time for this, don't have time for that. But being that busy and being flat out, are you actually making progress? Usually not. Again, it's just job to job and everything else. And I know a lot of you in the room might be thinking, but that's the way the industry is. But there is a change that can be made. So it's easy to become a busy fool, and it's easy to fall back into what you know by picking up the tools, dive headfirst into the job, and say every sentence that every business owner in here has said 1,000 times, and that is, fuck it, I'll just do it myself, because it's easier. That's the easiest thing to do. And that's because you're tired, you're frustrated, and you're fed up with problems. And doing things yourself is the fastest way to get something done today, but it's also the slowest way to grow long term. And that's what you have to try, and that's what that transition and that way of thinking is. It's easier, that's the easier thing. It's a short term, it's like putting a plaster over something, but it doesn't fix the source of the problem. And here's the truth that I tell every one of my clients. Your entire business starts with you, the business owner. Whether you have a team or not, whether you have good clients or nightmare clients, whether you have systems or it's absolutely pure chaos, everything begins and ends with you, the founder and the owner. So everything is your responsibility. It's not Jimmy's or Johnny's or whoever you've got working for you. It's not the supplier's fault. It's not the client's fault. Yes, they create the problems, but most of these problems get out of the way or get out of hand, get out of control because of the lack of structure, the lack of systems, the lack of whatever you have in place to protect you from them, like those non-payments, which is obviously a massive ongoing theme in the industry. And this is why I say all the time, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So you can have all the best intentions in the world, you can write any plan down you want, and you can have all the ideas, you can have the vision, but without the structure, without the systems, without taking action on them, without actually putting them into place, then they are just ideas, they're just thoughts, and nothing actually changes. So it has to start with a choice. The identity shift has to start with a choice. You have to decide to change how you operate. You have to say that enough's enough. There has to be enough pain there for you to actually go, right, you know what, I need to do something about this. A decision to change how you think, a decision to hold yourself to a higher standard. And the biggest change always has to happen in you, the business owner, first. You have to take full ownership, 100%. Otherwise, nothing else moves. When you take ownership, everything changes. When you avoid it, nothing changes, and that's the reality. Like I always say to my clients, I even say it to my own kids, everything's your fault. You know, blame yourself. As soon as you start taking ownership and blaming things and thinking how you could have done things differently, then you'll see the difference. Blaming other people gets you nowhere. So we're going to look at the broken model, and let's move into the real problems that we'll call electrical businesses face, because that's what you guys are today. So I'll show you a couple of examples. So hands up again, who was a business owner? What's one of the biggest problems you'll face in your business? Your biggest frustration? Payments. Anybody else? Hands up again, sorry. Yourself? Biggest frustration in the company? 100%. It's usually based around three things, and it's usually the same couple of examples. So usually it's time, profit, and control. So when we say about time, no weekly structure, no plan for the workload, everything's in your head, too much time wasted, chasing information, chasing people, fixing mistakes and firefighting. And then profit. So that's the two examples that we're given in the room today. No real financial clarity, no tracking on projects, cost reports incomplete, valuations not being recorded, invoices not being sent, undercharging, overcommitting, or money slipping through the cracks every time. And one of those is that that commercial know-how, that commercial sense in terms of contracts, reviewing these things, putting things in place. And I know sometimes they are out the window with some people, but we talk about how we can avoid them and how we can, again, protect ourselves the right way. And that all starts with the approach. Then the last one there is control, so the time, profit, control. And this one usually comes down to the team. There's no defined roles. So that's usually, control is usually issues with team. That's the most feedback I get from people in the room. No defined roles. There's no expectations set for the team. There's no accountability or feedback. People do not think or act like you, the business owner. That's often one of the frustrations. I don't know why he's not doing that the way I'd want him to do it, because they're not you. That's the issue. And everything falls back on you then. Every decision, every problem, every fire that needs to be put out falls back on you. And look, those problems do not appear in isolation. They all link together. So there's usually, everything I went through is probably what everybody faces every day in their business. And they all feed into each other. Because if you lose time, then you're losing money. So if you haven't got the time to review the contract in detail, to put terms and conditions in place, to get the contract reviewed, to chase up the payment, to even send the invoice on time. A lot of non-payments I faced in the industry was people submitting invoices late, not following the protocol, not doing whatever needed to be done because they just weren't aware of it, because again, they're too busy, sucked into the day-to-day stuff that they don't have time to review those things in detail, don't have time to consult somebody to do it for them. So if you lose time, you lose money. If you lose money, you lose control. And if you lose control, you end up stuck exactly where you are in the day-to-day in that sort of repetitive cycle, working harder and harder, but earning less and less, or not getting any further. And that's why my entire business model is based around that simple concept of time, profit, and control. I didn't come up with it by accident. It's through a lot of research and a lot of my own experience in the industry. If you fix those three areas, you can fix any trade or construction business from any starting point, from anywhere where you are, whether you're at the start or you've been in business for 20, 30 years. And when they work together, they give you structure, clarity, consistency, and a business that actually can grow or develop without actually damaging you or draining you. So this is the model. This is everything that I've built here. So we've talked about the real problems, the time, profit, control. And let's move into the model that I actually created to fix them. Because these problems keep showing up over and over again in every construction business, at every level of the industry. So instead of trying to fix the symptoms and reacting to things, I decided to reverse engineer the entire thing. And this is what I always say to my clients. Like, I always start with asking the guys, what kind of life do you want to live? And again, that makes it sounds a bit far-fetched or a wee bit airy-fairy or detached from what we're trying to do here. But it's like, if you're the business owner, what kind of life do you want to live? Not what kind of business do you want to have, what kind of life do you want to live? And that's the starting point. Everything goes back again, like I said, to the founder. Because you can build a business 100 different ways, but the right way is the one that gives you the life that you want. Because some people love working away, some people like being across water, some people love doing what they're doing, travel and everything else. Some of them want to be flat out, they want to be busy. They enjoy the busyness, the travel and the chaos. And if that's what they want, then great. We'll build a business around that, but we'll do it in such a way that it's controlled, that it's structured, that if that needs to change, it can. But for me, I never wanted that. I'm a family man of 3 kids, and that's what I wanted to be around. I wanted my time back. I wanted freedom, and I wanted control over my day-to-day, and I wanted to decide or dictate what I done with my time. And that is the reason why most people get into business in the first place, to build that life. So you started business, you got into your own business for a bit of freedom. You went into business for a bit of control, for profit, to build something that feels like yours and to do things your own way. Like, otherwise, what was the point? Do you know what I mean? If you're getting into business, that all those factors are there, and that always gets forgotten about. Most people forget why they even started out in business and why they went out there in the first place. And they forget what the whole point of owning your own business is about, or why they done it in the first place. So at the core of everything I do, I created something, and it says it up there, it's partially covered as that thriving life, and a life that you can actually enjoy. And again, it might sound a bit airy-fairy, but the thriving life is important. A life where you own your own time instead of being owned by your business. I hear a lot of guys all the time saying they can't even go on holiday without the phone ringing, and I've been there several times myself. You can't get any peace. You can't escape the business at any point in time. That's not a business. That's like a prison sentence. And once we're clear on that, once you're clear on what kind of life you want to live, what you want out of the business, what they want the business to give you in part of your life, so that's time, profit, whatever it may be. Then we look at how do you get more time, how do we protect your profit, how do we give you control, and how do we build a business that supports the life you want instead of damaging it. And that's where this model comes in, the time, profit, control. And when these 3 things, like I said in the last slide there, work together in synergy. You get a business that runs smoothly and consistently. You get a smarter business, you get stronger results, and a company that can grow at any speed because it is built on a model that cannot be broken. And again, it all has to work together. And the foundation, this is the foundation for building a real business that works. And this is exactly how we do it. So thriving life is obviously at the core of everything we're doing here. That's what the point and why we're doing it. We have to get back to the point of why we're in business. And to get that, we get time, profit, and control. That's the three elements of how we build that thriving life. That's the three things you need. You need time, either to work on the business or your own time to do things you want to do in your own time. You need control in order to have that time. So you need to have control over your team. You need to have control over whatever's going on in the business, who you're doing work with, who you're not doing work with, how the projects are going. And then obviously profit. We're all in business to make profit unless you're a charity. Profit is, the money is what makes it all go round. That's what gets us to where we want to be and what we want to do. And how we achieve those things is by delivering results for high quality clients with a streamlined organization. And I know that high quality client stuff, some people are going, yeah, where do they exist? But they do, both in the commercial and the domestic space. So delivering results, this is what I use this is sort of like my training module of how I work together, what the trainings are. So delivering results is about organization in the business. Organization, and all this starts with the founder. Organization in your life as a business owner. You know, how you get more organized, how the business gets more organized. Then we go into the project management side of things, managing projects efficiently, effectively, and the quality control. There are three main elements of how you deliver projects or run your business. Organization, project management, and quality control. That's what you're paid to do. You're paid to deliver. That's what you're paid to actually, the clients are paying you money to actually do these things, deliver results. The high quality clients can be different depending on where you are in your business, if you're commercial or you're domestic. So we look at marketing and vision for the business. We look at how you win work for that kind of business or the vision that you're after, and then also reputation. So how to build that reputation, how to maintain that reputation, because high quality clients isn't just, it's somebody like I know, and especially in the commercial space that's more difficult. But it's like knowing who people get burnt by people and just continue to go back and get burnt and get burnt and get burnt. And it's like that. It's like some of us don't struggle to get work. But it's getting work with the right people. It's working with the right people is what it is there. So the high quality clients, we work on how to find them, how to secure them, how to work with them, how to maintain that relationship. And then the streamlined organization is all about process and systems in your business, leadership and growing a team. And then the final element there is growth. Because growth is sort of a byproduct of everything that happens here. So people will come to me and say they want to double their turnover, increase their profits and everything else, but unless all these things are fixed first, growth isn't actually possible. So the other thing is one size doesn't fit all. No two businesses are the same. So just because we have that model for time, profit and control does not mean every single part of that model applies to every single person. Not every electrical business needs the same fix. Not every owner has the same problems. Not every company is at the same stage. So most construction business owners who come to me do not struggle to get work. That's rarely the issue. The real issue is getting the right work with the right people at the right place with the right processes behind it, and again, that being protected in case things do go wrong. Some of you in this room will have an incredible reputation and quality control, but some of you will be brilliant at winning work. Some of you will be organized, but the project management might be a problem, or the systems, or the process, or the team, or the finance. It's different for everybody. And that's why not every element of the model is used in the same way. There is no checklist. There is no module 1, module 2, module 3 that everybody comes in and goes through at the same time. It's not a one-stop shop. It's not generic training. Everything we do is bespoke to you and your business. Because there could be 10 business owners in this room or 100, and while you might share the same similarities, the details will always be different. Your approach is different, your personality is different, your goals are different, and the team is different. So the problems might look the same on paper, but they play out differently in real life. So everything has to be unique, it has to be tailored. It has to change when circumstances change. If you get an opportunity, we have a plan in place, and you get another opportunity, the plan changes. If you grow, we shift the plan. If a new challenge hits, we move with it, because no two businesses are the same, and that's exactly why one size does not fit all. Okay, so if you take anything today, take this. There's no reward for being the busiest guy in the room. You do not win by doing more, you win by running smarter. You win by getting control back, and you get control back by stepping back, seeing the bigger picture, and approaching your business from a different angle instead of living in the trenches every day. So you win by knowing your numbers, by knowing exactly what is happening inside your business at all times, because when you know the numbers, you can make decisions with confidence and not guesswork. And look, the industry is changing rapidly. We are at the start of a massive shift with AI, automation, data centers, next generation infrastructure, and construction, and especially electrical, is at the absolute forefront of it. And we're doing a lot with AI with our clients inside our program, and it's exciting. So This is an industry I've spent my entire life in, and I care about it deeply. I care about the good people in it, and I want to see those people running strong, efficient, profitable businesses that give them the life they can actually enjoy, not a life that controls them. So that is what smarter business, stronger results is all about. That is how you protect your time, that is how you lift your profit, and that's how you take control. And before I close, I want to say something important. Business does not have to be a lonely game. Most of us are brought up listening to the wrong people, bad advice from accountants, bad advice from mates, listen to what our fathers or grandfathers did 30 years ago, or taking guidance from people who mean well but never actually built what you're trying to build. Sometimes you already know what needs done. Sometimes you need someone to hold you accountable, raise your standards, or push you. Some map things out so you don't try and fix everything at once or fix nothing at all. If you want to speak to me at the end and know anything more about it, I'm just over in the main hall there. As soon as you walk in, you can't miss me. I'm hard to miss anyway, but as soon as you walk through the door, you'll see my big face on a poster. So look, appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time over and see me. Thank you.